This week, regenerating teeth, unusual vegetation, and goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Energy. As our demand for it grows, the world is faced with a challenge. When we burn coal, the energy that's been stored inside for millions of years is released to power our cities and our machines. But so, of course, is all the bad stuff that's polluting and changing our environment. Countries have met and agreed to reduce carbon emissions and invest in cleaner energy solutions. We are harnessing more solar and wind energy than ever. And last month, the UK had its first day of electricity supply without burning any coal. But green power is still a long way from taking over from fossil fuels. But what if there was a clean energy source that could release 10 million times more energy than fossil fuels, with an almost limitless supply, which could keep the planet running for millions of years? Well, turns out there is, and the answer lies in the stars. In the heart of the sun, under intense pressure and heat, hydrogen atoms change from gas into superhot plasma. And in this burning soup, they fuse together, forming helium and releasing immense amounts of energy. This is nuclear fusion. And this is what scientists have been trying for more than 60 years to recreate down here on Earth.
We have to do something similar to a star, which has gravity. And to do that, we use magnetic fields. And we're talking about magnetic fields that create more pressure than the water pressure at the bottom of the deepest ocean. So you've got this huge pressure trying to compress the plasma, and you've got to hold it in place for a very long time as well to get more energy out than you put in.
If you can keep that super hot plasma in place for long enough, the energy released can keep everything hot without the need for external power. The fusion then becomes self-sustaining, and that's when the magic happens. And that's also the hard bit. We are making progress, though. We have already achieved fusion, and some of the best fusion happens inside machines called tokamaks. What is a tokamak? This is a tokamak. Now, this one is just outside Oxford, which turns out to be a bit of an epicenter for fusion technology. The world's largest tokamak is just 15 minutes drive up that way. There is a problem with these machines, though, and that is that you end up having to put much more energy in to these things than you ever get out through fusion, which is obviously not ideal. But the company here is taking a different route. This is the lab of Tokamak Energy, which is developing relatively small tokamaks. Smaller prototypes can be tested and improved much quicker and more cheaply as the science is understood and the designs refined. This approach means the team may be the first to work out how to produce a net gain of energy. Go on then, fire it up. Oh my word. That is a fusion reaction.
So inside here we're generating a plasma, which is a gas with electricity flowing through it, and we're going to fuse atoms together, join them together and generate fusion energy.
And this light show isn't even fusion. This is just a warm-up for the next stage, which it's hoped will happen in the next year.
And then what we're going to do is heat it up to over 10 million degrees and up towards 100 million degrees. And
what will that look like? Will
so
it
that
look
will,
as good as
well,
this?
we won't be able to keep our face this close because it will get damaged. So we'll have to be further away outside some sort of concrete barrier, but it will actually start to go transparent as the plasma gets really hot, 10 times the temperature of the sun, 100 times the temperature of the sun.
Once they've achieved the temperatures, they need to keep the plasma in place long enough for it to become self-sustaining. And this is what the team hopes will create magnetic fields strong enough to do that. Instead of thick copper cables, a strip of super thin superconductor made of yttrium, barium, copper oxide. All this sounds hopeful, but the joke is that nuclear fusion has always been 30 years away. If successful, it would mean the end of our reliance on fossil fuels, but there's still a lot of science to do between now and then.
It could be a fantastic source of energy, likely to be the most important source of energy in the 22nd century. The point is we need it now, and so we want to make faster progress towards fusion energy.
While these guys try and recreate the conditions in the centre of a star, let's talk for a few minutes about capturing energy from our sun, solar energy. See, it turns out that India is in the grip of a solar gold rush. Money is pouring into the country to build solar power plants to try and cater for the skyrocketing demands from about 1 billion potential consumers. We sent David Reed to the southern state of Tamil Nadu to visit the king of the solar crop, the record-breaking Kamuti power plant.
Follow the morning sun for 2 hours out of Madurai in Tamil Nadu and it takes you to a world first. The planet's largest solar power plant. It's huge. 10 square kilometres of glimmering glass and electronics stretching as far as a drone can see. The power company Adani threw $700 million into building the Kamuti plant. And they didn't hang about, up and running in just 9 months. But is big beautiful when it comes to solar power, or are the Indians just showing off? Well, there might be an answer in all those clouds.
If you look over there, you can see there's a gathering storm, and this is one of the problems with solar power, that if the rain comes, if there's too much cloud, your output is drastically reduced.
But the sheer size of Kamuti means this is less of an issue.
The plant is covered in 2,500 acres of land. So one portion of the plant is covered by cloud. So that portion only 5% or 10% is reduced by that particular cloud. The cloud moves away from our plant, again the generation comes to the normal level. But normally we can predict, say in a year, we can predict the generation for maximum 10 months. Only 2 months there will be variations.
Each of these panels generates 310 watts of energy. 30 watts is enough for a domestic light bulb, 220 for a laptop computer, a plasma TV screen, that's 330, 350 watts. There are 2.5 million of these panels at Kamuti.
Kamuti's estimated to make enough power for 750,000 people. They're squeezing every last drop of energy out of whatever sun's available. Bifacial panels even generate power from light that bounces back from the ground, or even better, snow. Not that there's much snow in southern India, nor reliable all-year-round rain. Where water's scarce, washing dust-covered panels can be impossible. An Israeli company, Ecopia, has developed a robot that dry cleans the panels so they get a regular dusting. As the light fades, so does the power generated. Until they've got the batteries to store something like the 648 megawatts Kamuti produces, solar in India won't replace dirty coal, the noxious gases from which pollute the country and the rest of the world. It's certainly getting cheaper. This week, wholesale prices of solar dropped below coal for the first time. India's aiming to get its solar capacity up from 12 to 100 gigawatts in 5 years. Bids are in to construct a bigger plant than this further north in Madhya Pradesh. But until then, Kamuti, the planet's largest solar plant, will make the most of its place in the sun.
Hello and welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week that Microsoft released an urgent software update after discovering a flaw in the Windows operating system. The bug could give hackers access by simply sending an email, which didn't even need to be opened. A 16-year-old's tweet about chicken nuggets became the most retweeted ever. And O2 customers in the UK were told there'd be no more roaming charges in 47 European countries as of next month. Take a look at these solar panels. Tesla's solar roof tiles are now available. Look pricey? Well, due to their power harnessing qualities, they're actually being pitched as more affordable than conventional roof tiles. From solar to sonic, a US plane returned to Earth this week after 2 years in space, but its mission remains top secret. Having landed at the Kennedy Space Center, all that the Pentagon declared about the Air Force's robotic mini space shuttle is that it was performing risk reduction, experimentation, and concept of operations development. Intriguing. And finally, Hollywood quality animation comes to the masses. Okay, well, not quite. The SmartSuit Pro camera-free motion tracking system costs a fraction of the Pro kit, but at $2,500, it could prove game-changing for independent movie makers and game designers.
It's one of the biggest fundraising events of the year. Nearly 40,000 people ran this year's London Marathon, and whilst funds are still being counted, organisers are hopeful they'll smash last year's record of £59 million raised. Online fundraising platforms now play a big role in attracting more donations, pushing the charity's causes across to users, whilst also enabling them to give money with just one click. Just Giving, one of the biggest players, raised just under £350 million last year. This is a figure that charities may not have been able to raise without the help of these sites. But these donations are also big business. Just Giving takes up to 5% commission, whilst others, like Global Giving, take up to 15%. They say the fees cover operational costs and innovations to ultimately raise more for charities. But for charities, this commission is money that's not going towards their causes.
So the majority of our funding comes from our incredible individual fundraisers. For example, one of our runners is currently on £1,500. Now the commission on that's going to be about £100. And on the ground, that translates into care for 10 kids that could have received a top-to-toe checkup, HIV testing and TB testing, and be insured of their health and well-being. So it makes a huge difference.
Starfish is a small charity which helps vulnerable children in South Africa who are affected by HIV and poverty. And a lot of its money goes into running a mobile health clinic. In the UK, the charity Big Kid helps vulnerable young people in South London to gain leadership skills. Both organisations have been experimenting with KindLink, a site that promises to give charities all their collected donations and will not make its money from commissions. I went to meet its founder, Ishkrin Kulev, who traded in corporate life and set up a home office just south of the Thames.
KindLink didn't start as a company. KindLink started as an idea to be a social enterprise / charity that helps charities.
For Ishkrin, it's all about transparency. He wanted to create a platform where charities would post updates.
The biggest problem of the charities is how do they communicate with their donors and do the donors trust where the money is going. And about 70% of donors say they would donate more if they knew what happens with their donation.
They've also added a feature for people to see how much money the charity has received and how much it's spent. How has your background in financial tech helped you to put this together, and also maybe to work the system a bit? Because it's all about making money. It's just making money now not for businesses, but for good causes.
Exactly, yes. It's always a matter of negotiations, I would say. I would go firstly through if volumes are extremely important. So how you present volumes to your providers. When I know where they can make a compromise, I can try to come up with a deal which would work for both of us.
See, this is a guy you want on your side because he knows how it all works behind the scenes. And so far, it's proving successful with more than 170 charities signed up.
How would you improve on what you're doing in the pitch?
For Big Kid, it's able to spend more money on its programs like this one, which trains young people to be football coaches.
It has helped me definitely, especially with school and stuff like that. Like in school, I wasn't like the good kid, you understand?
So how does KindLink cover its costs? Well, instead of taking commission from donors, it plans to take the money from businesses. They've developed this platform for companies to build a profile for themselves, showcasing the good causes they support whilst building their brand name. And the companies will be charged a monthly fee. I think it's quite fitting that KindLink have set themselves up just across the river from Canary Wharf, where the financial industry makes its billions. And I think it takes a certain kind of person to give all that up and come over here and work for charities. Well, that and a small canoe.
What's being created here in this lab at the University of Nottingham could mean that you will be making fewer trips to the dentist in future. They're working on fillings that heal your teeth. Whilst they can't actually make a tooth regrow, they aim to encourage the dental pulp stem cells within the tooth to transition into a new healthy cell type. Goggles on and time to talk to one of the lead researchers on the project. Adam, can you tell me a bit about what you're doing here?
Yeah, so we've developed a dental material technology that can be used to restore certain components of a patient's tooth. This is the material we have here in a solution form, and once UV light is irradiated on this solution, it stiffens and polymerizes into a rigid plastic or a polymer.
The substance created here is used in the same way as a conventional filling, but the aim is that it will interact with the dental pulp beneath to heal it as well as prevent further rotting. Perfecting the product involves precision and patience. The material's going through many stages of testing. Once solidified under a UV light, it's off for its next challenge. And is the idea that it will heal all the way up to the point of the filling, so you have a totally healthy tooth remaining?
So the healing process will only occur if the material is in contact with the cells that we are screening for. So we have to place this material in contact with the pulp tissue. And that pulp tissue contains the cell population, the dental pulp stem cells, that we are hoping to engineer for repair and regeneration.
And what does this mean for your average person who goes to have a filling?
Well, potentially, if a person has severe dental decay and they need a filling, or if it's severe enough they need a root canal, potentially this technology can be used as an intermediate approach where we can intervene and reduce the incidence of people needing root canals.
The substance is designed to be used in a similar way to current fillings and is hoped to be available within 10 years after various trials and approvals are achieved. And they're not the only ones experimenting with regenerative dentistry. King's College have been working with an Alzheimer's drug aiming to regenerate stem cells, something which could be ready even sooner, in 5 years. But whilst the wait for what we saw in Nottingham may seem long, I'm told the materials are cheap, which indicates if this does become a reality, it will do so for more than just the elite few.
Now, over the last few years, we've reported from Silicon Valley as marijuana has gradually been decriminalised in several places across the US. The tech companies in the area have been quick to try and capitalise on changes in the law, but there have also been some unintended consequences. For example, it turns out there's no reliable way to test whether a driver has been smoking pot. Well, as Sumi Das reports, nanotechnology that's previously been used to help detect cancer may now be used by police officers to help keep the roads safe.
American police officers are facing a problem with pot as more states legalize it. How to crack down on driving while drugged. We asked the Mountain View Police Department to explain the standard procedure to test for marijuana use.
There isn't one. It all depends on whether or not we can smell something. Federal law still states that smell alone can allow an officer to investigate further.
There is no quick roadside test. Pot behaves differently in the body than alcohol.
The difference between you and I breaking down alcohol is minimal, whereas in marijuana cases, it rapidly leaves the body.
Right.
At the end of an hour, 90 to up to 90% of the marijuana in your system will have been broken down.
The police department hopes Stanford University can help. Scientists there are working on a potalyzer, a device that detects levels of THC, the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana.
We have an array of 80 sensors, and you can think of each of those sensors as a magnet. And when a biochemical reaction occurs that indicates THC is present, then a magnetic nanoparticle causes that magnet to flip its polarization. It's a lot like a computer hard drive where you have zeros and ones that a read head can read. So for us, rather than having a computer flip it from 0 to 1, we have a biochemical reaction flip it from 0 to 1.
The potalyzer tests saliva collected with a swab and can send results to a mobile device.
This is the first attempt at turning the technology into a handheld device. In a year's time, the scientists want it to be easy enough to use for police officers in the field.
I stop you, you blow into the machine within 15 to 20 minutes of the stop, and it tells me your nanogram level right then. And 45 minutes later, I get your blood drawn, and it's lower. At least I have the original. At the time of my car stop, you were at this level, and that will help in the prosecution later on.
Ultimately, researchers want potalyzer to work faster, cost less, and it should work on people. Yeah, that last requirement is key. Because Stanford receives U.S. government funding, it must comply with federal drug laws, so potalyzer has yet to be tested with humans. The researchers hope potalyzer can edge out competing devices, like the THC-detecting breathalyzer from Hound Labs. Marijuana use may rise as looser laws take effect, but the right tool could help police keep streets safe.
That was Sumi Das, and just before we go, a little tease about next week's Click, which is going to be rather epic. Can't wait. That's next week. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at BBC Click and like us on Facebook too, why don't you? You can see loads of extra content on our Facebook page every day of the week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.